Hello everyone, I am Dr. Nikhil Agarwal. So today I will be talking about the topic anatomy of extrahepatic biliary apparatus. So now we will be dealing with introduction. Then I will be talking about right and left hepatic ducts, common hepatic duct, the gallbladder, cystic duct, arterial supply, venous drainage, lymphatic drainage and nerve supply, and then bile duct or also known as common bile duct, and then finally the applied anatomy. I'll be covering this in a series of two lectures. So firstly, talking about the introduction. So why are we actually interested on this topic? And any anatomical knowledge about this topic is very important for us to understand about the various disease processes such as the cholelithiasis, cholecystitis, and also to understand the surgical processes like the cholecystectomy. This topic forms the basis for these all surgical entities, and eventually I will be talking in detail about this with regards to the anatomical aspect. So, talking about the extrahepatic biliary apparatus, this apparatus basically is it is responsible for collecting the bile from the liver and storing and concentrating it in the gallbladder and then transmitting it to the second part of duodenum as and when required. So, talking broadly, this apparatus, extrahepatic biliary apparatus, is comprising of the gallbladder and the biliary tract. The biliary tract is further consisting of the right and left hepatic ducts, the common hepatic duct, cystic duct, and the common bile duct. In this image, it can be seen clearly the neck. Starting from this hepatic duct, right and left hepatic duct, joining to form the common hepatic duct, and then we have this is the gallbladder continuing in the cystic duct, and then cystic duct and common hepatic duct combining to form the bile duct or also known as the common bile duct, abbreviated as CBD, and then it finally opens along with the pancreatic duct into the second part of duodenum. We will eventually see about the details of all these sections. So, similar diagram, much enlarged view, 1 and 2. These two represent the right and the left hepatic duct. The third represents the common hepatic duct. The fourth represents the cystic duct. The fifth represents the bile duct. The sixth represents the gallbladder. As I have already spoken, the same points are also mentioned on the slides. Certain points are basically important for this topic. So I have highlighted certain things with the yellow markers and also different colors so that emphasis can be put upon those some important points. So now I will take the advantage of the 3D platform and I will talk about this topic now from a three-dimensional view using my educator license of the complete anatomy. Let's see, we have the skeleton here, so let's open the digestive system. Okay, so now here we see we are interested about this region specifically. This is the liver, the gallbladder, the stomach. We need to see in detail about the extrahepatic biliary apparatus. So we will uh, just focus upon the digestive system here. We will remove the skeletal system and then we just turn this around. And we see the similar things in a three-dimensional view. We can also appreciate the relations which will be eventually talked about in this lecture. Okay, so we remove this from our view. So and also so first let's appreciate what we can see clearly. As we can see, this is the gallbladder. Okay, posterior part and then anterior part. This is the gallbladder. Then it is continuing in the form of cystic duct, and here This region, we will talk about it in liver also. This region is the porta hepatis, where we can see there are two ducts, the left hepatic duct and the right hepatic duct. They unite to form the common hepatic duct. You can rewind and you can see all these structures, and also whatever I'm speaking right now is displayed on the left hand side, so it shouldn't be any issue. And the common hepatic duct then we see joins with this cystic duct to form the bile duct. Now we just move down a little bit. Now we have to remove this pancreas from our view, so we will first fade it. You can see the bile duct is continuing, so we will completely hide it now from our view. A little bit part of pancreas is still left, okay, but now what we need to appreciate here is this bile duct or the common bile duct is forming a union with the main pancreatic duct and finally opening into the second part of the duodenum. This is the duodenum, and just specifically where it is opening, this is second part of the duodenum. These things will be talking about in a 2D images a lot in detail, and I will also be posting some images in the slides which will be much easy to draw, hand draw in your exams or reproduce in the exams. So you can, by the using the advantage of this platform, you can pause anytime, anywhere in any slide, and you can draw the images and read the labels and everything. So now moving, we have I think from this view, three-dimensional view, we have a little bit association of the 2D image with the 3D image. Now we move back onto the slides. Okay, so we saw there, and okay, so putting the same thing as we discussed till now into a flowchart form. So bile is secreted by the liver cells, then it goes through the biliary ductules to the right and left hepatic ducts, then to the common hepatic duct, cystic duct, to the gallbladder for storage and concentration. And when the fat enters the small intestine, the gallbladder contracts and the sphincter of the hepatopancreatic ampulla relaxes. And so the bile moves from the gallbladder to through the cystic duct and from the union to the common bile duct to the major duodenal papilla. The same thing can be seen in this diagram as well, from the right and left hepatic duct to the common hepatic duct, and then cystic duct to the gallbladder, and then from the gallbladder again to the cystic duct via this union to the common bile duct, then meeting with the union with the main pancreatic duct to the major duodenal papilla, or we can say to the second part of the duodenum. We will see in detail henceforth. So now talking about each and every topic in little bit detail. First talking about the right and left hepatic ducts. So the right and left hepatic ducts emerge at the porta hepatis from the right and left lobes of the liver. The porta hepatis is the point of initiation of the extrahepatic biliary apparatus. This can be asked in MCQ. Now talking about the common hepatic duct. The common hepatic duct, which passes downward for about 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters and then joined on its right side by the cystic duct to form the common bile duct. This thing we have already seen. Now the angle which is formed between this cystic duct and the common hepatic duct is acute and is called as the cystohepatic angle. Again, can be asked in the exam. I have demarcated this via the arrow. There may be a presence of some accessory hepatic ducts. They are seen in about 15% of the cases. They usually emerge from the right lobe of the liver and may open in one of the following sites. The common hepatic duct, it's already same nomenclature done as A, B, C and D. A, the common hepatic duct, B, the cystic duct, C, the bile duct, and D, the gallbladder. It may or may not be asked in the exam. Now talking about the gallbladder in detail, the gallbladder is an elongated, pear-shaped sac of about 30 to 50 ml in capacity. Minded, this capacity is again asked in many exam MCQs, and this stores and concentrates the bile as we already talked about and discharges it into the duodenum by its muscular contraction. So firstly talking about the location, the gallbladder lies in the fossa for the gallbladder, again asked in the question in MCQs, on the inferior surface of the right lobe of the liver along the right edge of the quadrate lobe. Each and every word is important here and may be asked in MCQ in some or the other forms. It is usually attached to the liver substance by the connective tissue, but may be suspended from the liver by a short mesentery or partly buried in it. The dimensions again, the 7 to 10 centimeters, width is 3 centimeter at its widest part. Now, why I'm stressing upon these facts and figures, because as a whole, gallbladder is a very important topic for MBBS or any exam. I have highlighted two lines which are repeatedly asked in many questions, and this will also help in a better, clear understanding of the concept. So, briefly talking about the hormonal control of the gallbladder emptying, when the food rich in fat enters the duodenum, the duodenal cells liberate the hormone called cholecystokinin, CCK abbreviation, which is carried to the gallbladder and causes its contraction. There is reflex mediation. When gallbladder contracts, the sphincter of Oddi relaxes, thus concentrated, which is about 10 times the concentration which can happen in the gallbladder, is emptied into the gallbladder. Bile is emptied into the gallbladder. Now, radio-opaque substances which are excreted in bile are also concentrated in it. Therefore, used to demonstrate radiographically, cholecystography, the cavity of the gallbladder and its ability to concentrate and contract. Eventually, I will also be posting about the radiographic some slides which will make this thing more clear. So, talking about functions of gallbladder in briefly, it, as we saw, it helps in the storage of bile and release into the duodenum, absorption of water and concentration of bile up to 10 times, again which can be asked in MCQ, regulates the pressure in the biliary system by appropriate dilation or contraction. Now, we might have heard about this, that there are stones in the gallbladder. Now, as a graduate, MBBS graduate, and as a doctor, one should know the basis behind the formation of gallstones. Normally, it absorbs the normal function of the gallbladder. It absorbs the small amounts of loose bile, salt, cholesterol compounds too. But if the gallbladder is inflamed, we will see the causes and everything in the end in the applied anatomy. If the gallbladder is inflamed, it can lead to abnormal concentration function, and which can eventually lead to bile salts alone being absorbed, leaving the cholesterol behind, and hence the formation of the gallstones. The bile salts have a powerful solvent action on cholesterol, which tends to be precipitated. I have described the same thing in a diagrammatic form also. And something about the peritoneal covering of the gallbladder. When you will go through this topic from your standard books, you will see there are so many points, so many where it's written that about the peritoneal presence of the peritoneum. So in a single statement, if I need to write all this, I will be talking about this in the eventual slides also. But in a single statement, peritoneal covering of the gallbladder, covered by the peritoneum except for the surface resting on the liver. We can see in this diagram, this blue color line is the peritoneal reflection. This is visible clearly. So this gallbladder is covered by the peritoneum or peritoneal reflection only except for the surface resting on the liver. This whole part is not being covered by the peritoneum. So as you can see from this diagram itself, fundus is completely covered with peritoneum, and the exceptions will be only to the body region and for the neck region primarily. It is clearly evident from this diagram. Now talking about this in detail, parts of the gallbladder can be broadly divided into fundus, body and neck. The one which is labeled, this is the fundus. second is the body, and third is the neck part. This fundus was also will be seen in the next diagram also, and if you can recall, in the three-dimensional view in the front from the anterior, the fundus of the gallbladder was seen. So the same diagram which was in the previous slide, it's well labeled for your reference. In case if you have any confusions, you can go through this diagram for the detailed labels. Now talking about the parts in detail, firstly talking about the fundus. So this fundus is the expanded blind end of the organ, is extended below the lower margin of the liver, completely surrounded by the peritoneum. Now I have highlighted here and I have explained through the previous diagram. And if we talk about the relations of the fundus, anteriorly it is related to the anterior abdominal wall and posteriorly to the transverse colon. Again, a few of the three-dimensional can be used for better understanding of the relations. This is what I was talking about in the beginning, surface projection of the fundus. As we are familiar with this diagram, this green color, this part is visible part of the gallbladder from the anterior view. So this is the part of the gallbladder which is known as fundus. So a short note may be asked on the surface projection of fundus. This projects from the inferior border of the liver and touches anterior abdominal wall at tip of the right ninth costal cartilage. Again, obviously the word right is also important, and deep to the point where the right linea semilunaris, I hope you are aware by this term now, and meets where the right linea semilunaris meets the costal margin. So this point is where they both meet, and this is known as the Murphy's point. This is again asked in a lot of MCQs and also in Viva. Now talking about the body of the gallbladder, it is directed upwards, backwards and to the left. This joins the neck at the right end of the porta hepatis. Again, I cannot stress more the words which are coming, porta hepatis and whatever you have heard till now. If you are not aware of these terms, please go through the previous lectures and clear out the terms for better understanding. So the superior or the upper surface is related directly to the liver and is devoid of the peritoneum. Again, we can understand this statement from the previous diagram. It's now not any problem in reading this statement. So inferior and the undersurface, inferior or the undersurface related to the duodenum second part is related to the duodenum second part and is covered by the peritoneum. So the superior or the upper surface is devoid of peritoneum and the inferior or the undersurface is covered by the peritoneum. Now we move on to the next part, the neck. The neck is the narrow upper end of the gallbladder lying near the right end of the porta hepatis. Again, you can notice there is the word right end of the porta hepatis, right end of the porta hepatis. You need to pay attention to these words so that you can write in the exam. Attached to liver, the neck is attached to the liver by loose alveolar tissue in which cystic artery is embedded. We will be talking about cystic artery in detail eventually. This neck turns sharply downwards to become continuous with the cystic duct. Again, it is asked in MCQs. This junction with this duct is marked by a constriction, which is present normally. And the relation of this neck is related inferiorly to the duodenum first part. Now talking about the infundibulum or the Hartmann's pouch. Normally, the neck in its posteromedial wall shows a pouch-like dilatation which is directed downwards and backwards. But pathologically, the gallstones may lodge in this pouch which may cause adhesion with the duodenum first part and finally cause perforation. Hence, due to the possibility of lodgement of the gallstones into this pouch, this infundibulum or the Hartmann's pouch is very important for the exam point of view.